Hi. So yeah, it's 2021 and that feels nice to say. I don't know what it means yet. I don't think anybody knows what it means yet, but it feels nice to say. Anyway, hi, I'm Morgan. My pronouns are they and them, and this is my channel Tempest Games, where I do live world building, ttrpg, and board game design. How is everyone? What's going on? What's good? What's good for me? I found a new fizzy drink. I'm braving a fizzy drink today. This is a non-alcoholic bitter drink. My badge is my pronouns. They, them, theirs. It's a tiny one. It'd be nice if it were bigger. These tumblers came in a gift from, I don't know if I can turn it up without spilling it. Can you see at the bottom? From Martini. It was a Negroni gift set. Martini makes a very, very nice bitter liqueur. But this is an Italian bitter that's non-alcoholic. The brand is San Bitter. And this clear one is to die for. It's got all of the bitterness of a bitter liqueur, but it's also the herbalness is like knocked down a significant notch, and it's very bright and fruity as well. I'm quite enjoying it. They also do the red kind and the non-alcoholic. That is the less fruity, more herby. And that's also delicious. Have I tried the non-alcoholic gin? I've tried one of the pre-mixed cans of, I think it was a Seedlip. And yeah, it's okay. It's good. I like the concept of a non-alcoholic drink that's got all of the things that are great about a gin and tonic in it. Is it something I'd drink on the regular? Not at the price that they're selling it for, unfortunately. It's just a bit much. Sorry, my face is a bit dry today. It's just we've got that touch of cold in the air now, where in the middle of the day my fingers get a bit chilly and you start thinking about maybe knocking up the boiler a degree or two. It is January, so the timing is right. Next 2 months are going to be chilly ones, but it's just meant that my face is really dry. I even moisturized like an hour ago and I'm still scratching. Okay, what are we up to today? What's new with the channel? Nothing significant since last week, or last show. I discovered after reviewing the recording of the last show that it had not occurred to me that in streaming from a new PC that the audio chip on my motherboard would play a significant role in how the audio sounds in my recordings and on streams. And saying it out loud, I want to facepalm because it seems really obvious. But it didn't occur to me until I watched the video, and it's super clippy, and I'm sorry about that. And I don't know if I'm going to bother trying to fix it because these aren't really fancy videos. But I have in mind a more significant fix for the problem. But for the moment, I've just updated my audio filters using a recording that was actually made on this PC instead of the one that was made on my laptop. So hopefully what you're listening to right now is better sounding than it was last time. And then I'm probably going to spend the next 2 weeks fiddling around with complicated digital audio mixers. And I think you put it really well earlier, Rick, in that it feels a bit like you need a degree in audio engineering to fully understand what you're doing with these things, and the best you can do is hope that you find a tutorial on YouTube that explains it clearly enough and doesn't give you bogus advice, and that it works when you actually... Sorry, I'm muting my phone. I need to remember to do that more often now. Yeah, so, I mean, I finally found a video that started making sense to me and wasn't advising me to do all sorts of weird things that I didn't understand with virtual cables that I don't think I actually needed. So, you know, I'm going to give it another go. I've tried once before and I nearly broke the stream. Playing around with trying to get, because you have the plugins, it's the same plugins you use in OBS to make everything sound nice, but you have to attach it to this digital audio mixer, and you need an extra piece of software to connect the plugins and the digital audio mixer. And whatever I did just broke it, and I had to undo everything and start all over again. Well, because audio is really complex, isn't it, though? It's a really, really complex subject. And our ears are very, very complex. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. If you look at, like, things like color, what do you call it? I think it's just colorization, in, like, you know, films and video and whatnot. That subject is super, super complicated as well, because again, the eye and the mind that's interpreting those things are really complicated. I think it's just something that both color and audio are things that as lay people we take for granted. And it takes a lot. It's not just technical know-how as well. Audio engineers are artists. They're found art artists. They take something that exists in the world and they tweak it and they make it into a piece of art. And you have to really admire that. It takes a lot of skill and time to learn to listen properly and to know what to hear and know what you're listening to. Not dissimilar to being a musician. You have to be able to hear everything that's going on in the orchestra and to pick out small little strains out of everything. And if I hadn't had a music teacher in junior high who took us through that, I think I probably would have not realized it was a thing that you can do. Also, the TV show, something Mozart. It's an Amazon Prime show. Very good. About a Peruvian conductor taking over the New York Symphony and his protege, oboist. Very, very good show. Very, as far as I'm aware, and obviously I've only, dabbled in the subject. Quite accurate to life as a orchestral musician. Okay, what's going on? So today's show again is, yes, Mozart in the Jungle. That's it. Thank you very much, Rick. Good one. Good catch. Today's show is, again, Writing the Player's Guide to Kinde. Kinde is a restricted fantasy setting with a dash of post-apocalypse. I can never say that right the first time. Post-apocalypse. Nope. Yeah. I'm just going to keep getting it wrong. And it also has strong themes of trauma. Today's episode, we're going to be working on, I want to get in one last dissenter commune. And then we're going to move on to, we need to review our intro to important places. And then we need to move on to the next section, which is life in the world. And I've just started bullet pointing the areas we need to get into, and we'll just see where inspiration takes us. So, let's see. Let's get going. Let's swap over. Boop. Nope. Boop. Come on, button. Work button. Work button. Work button. My touch monitor is not working. Shame. Okay, I'm gonna do it this way. Boop. There we go. Yeah, something happened. Let's see if I can fix this really quick. Disconnect it and then reconnect it. No. Because it's nice having this on my phone and being able to just touch it without being awkward or clicking a mouse. Interesting. Maybe it's on here. Oh well. Done is done. I'm just gonna have to remember that that doesn't work now. Okay. Not sure what happened there. Anyway, fun times. Hiccups and the like. Okay. We need one more dissenter commune. So we have our elven apologists, our truists. I think that was the term that I particularly liked last time, and it still finds favor with me. These are the folks who think the elves had it right, and that whether or not they're going to come back, they need to live the way the elves meant for them to live, I suppose. And so they live on a sort of reservation. Lick spittles. What a funny word. I'm just going to note that here, because maybe we can come up with some interesting derogatory terminology or something to do with that. Maybe in the future. Okay. People who feel left out that aren't the breeder castes. I think that's, there could be a different category of dissenter. We've got the apologists. We've got the breeder castes. We've got the rebels, and the old rebels and the bandit camps. My thoughts are actually that the rebel whole is much less populated than it used to be before the first flight. I think that after the occupation, there was a population boom. But after the second market talk, it is a proper noun. But after the second market talk, the situation, the village, I'll just say a rebel hole was no longer necessary. I think even during those few years when there was a king, Rebel Hall was still heavily populated because, I mean, it wouldn't have been very popular, I think, the monarchy in general. So we've got Rebel Hole, we've got the breeder caste communes, we've got bandit camps, we've got dissenter communes, or we've got the apologists. We need, I think, just for realism's sake, we need at least one other group. Whose reason is distinctly different from everyone else's. I've got some weird sound going on in my headphones right now. No, that's not my headphones. That is my audio here. Oops. Turn my speakers down. That doesn't change it at all. Okay. Do you hear that? No, it doesn't look like you do. It's probably Newsgate. Okay. I'm going crazy. I've got gremlins in my office now. Okie doke. So, I want someone else who feels left out of Miminey City and the Eight Lorddoms, left out of the promise of a new culture. Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe these are folks who are more interested in what was. They're more interested in the past, the time before the occupation. Now we know there's very little left from before the occupation, because the elves would have had a strict policy of what do you call it when an oppressive force erases your culture? I suppose erasure is a very well-meaning term, but it's a bit technical. So the elves would have either collected bits of old ancient human cultural genocide. They would have collected and categorized, that's not the word, cataloged bits of human, elements of human culture. So chances are there's a very large collection, a very good collection of human, history, archaeology, anthropology materials, but on the elven continent, on the elven homelands. So the large majority of stuff, anything that was seen as redundant to the elves, that wasn't collected privately or sent to the elven continent, would have been destroyed. So we're just dealing with scraps, whatever was left in the elven quarter of Miminey City that didn't get taken along with the elves. Anything that they dig up in New Defiance, just find in random places, possibly some ziggurats. Is that enough to build an entire, we'll say, a society the size of a village on the idea of we should be living this way, we should be doing it the old way, not the new way? Possibly. Especially if we say that we know, for instance, that this commune is located quite close to New Defiance. Maybe they raid archaeology digs in New Defiance. It's interesting. Religious faction. What religion? There aren't any religions. Not any human ones, anyway. The humans have a secular, what would you call it? A secular practice. That's what they have. They don't have no religions. As far as the humans are concerned, there are no gods. And that is the general actual objective truth of the world, that there are no gods in Kinde. I'm not aware that there even was an ancient human religion, let alone that one would have stuck. There's definitely things that have stuck quietly in the shadows, like one of the cities has retained some of their old language. I haven't decided which one yet. It might just be this one. But there is, in fact, a pidgin human language, which is the last, remnants of the ancient human language. That is, I think, ancient human religions is something I'm going to have to think about a lot more. About all the various implications on the rest of the world building. For instance, am I laying too many low probability features in a single region? What does the existence of an ancient human religion say about modern times and the existence or non-existence of gods? Anti-magic, that's not necessarily a bad idea. Okay, so let's see. Let's write down anti-magic. And we'll also write down past is the way forward. Those are sort of our two ideas right now about why a group of humans might be left out by the larger society of Miminey City and the Eight Lorddoms. The thing that worries me about this, that would be a particular feature of an anti-magic group, would be that I think they would feel like... Well, okay, so let's write down what you were saying, Rick. So, believes that magic will bring the elves back. So I think because of that, they would feel like they need to stop everyone else. This is sort of a big fear and what do you want to call it? Or just say a big fear element resulting in aggression. So if we take that even further, we could say that they're probably looking for ways to stop magic use in MC and 8 in whatever way possible. So what does that look like? Making deals with building military might and making deals with bandits, because that's the only physical force really available to them, wouldn't it be? Aside from that, they could also be looking to influence the Miminey City and Eight Lorddoms populace through, what would you call it, espionage? Yeah, infiltration. But usually in infiltration, you're trying to get into a tight, barred off organization of some kind in order to gain information about this. But this is working your way into the works and trying to influence how it works, what it thinks from the ground up. And I think actually the correct term is insurrection. Let's see. A violent uprising against an authority or government. Oh, okay. Maybe that's not correct. An organized attempt by a group of people to defeat their government and take control of the country, usually by violence. Interesting. Okay, what do we got here? Guerrilla petitioner, purchaser, and no. Let's see. Thesaurus influence. Control, domination, effect, force, impact, importance, leadership, leverage, pressure, prestige, repercussion, reputation, agencies in this carry, dominion, predominance, prerogative, prominence, supremacy, sway maybe, but sway again is too forward. This needs to be more covert. I need the verb. Scrutinize, snoop, glimpse, smell, reconnoiter. Catch sight of, get a load of, keep under surveillance. No. Stop it. Okay. Infiltrate. Right, access, crack, impregnate, insinuate, saturate, filter through, sneak in. Ugh, why is it so hard? Adulterate? Depreciate, deteriorate, value. Infiltrate. Attacking, sedge. Insinuate, still. Brainwash, catechize, disseminate. Pregnate, impress, inculcate, indoctrinate. What's this one? To implant by repeated statement or admonition, teach persistently and honestly, to cause or influence someone to accept an idea or feeling. I mean, yeah, it's a really clunky word, though. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I think we're just gonna... We're not going to use any big scary words. Yeah, it is a bit like brainwashing through influence. I'm going to say covert influence. Oh, it's the whole thing started with the word influence. Covert activity. We'll just leave it there. But isn't it the use of magic that they think is what's going to bring the elves down? So wouldn't any use of magic bring about their worst fears? I mean, I get what you're saying. That's definitely a common technique for trying to persuade people, is to use the thing against them. But I'm not sure that fits here because of the original motivation. It'll bring the elves back. Maybe. I mean, that might be some drama within the camp itself. Okay, let's look at these folks. Passes the way forward. So the true true human way is the way from before the occupation. So that means they're going to be interested in any and all artifacts of ancient human culture. That means that they're going to be very attracted to the activities of New Defiance. They're going to be hanging around more powerful people who are experts and collectors of ancient human culture. This group, I think, would be less location dependent and perhaps more of a feature, a general feature, like a minority feature of the environment. So, chances are most of, let's go back. Yeah, most of these types will be found as minorities within each settlement. So you'll find someone having, say, unpopular meetings to explore. We're just going to do ancient human culture. We'll just abbreviate that. So like they'll have readings from texts that were found and, you know, speakers and stuff like that. If you think in terms of, have you seen the TV show, The Detectorists? It's a TV show I absolutely love by, an amazingly talented actor and writer. I'm gonna have to look him up. Hang on. The Detectorists. He's probably spelled by. I always forget his name. Mackenzie Crook. This fellow. Brilliantly talented. There's only 3 seasons of this stuff. He wrote the entire thing himself, and starring Toby Jones alongside himself. He acted in it. It's just stunningly good television. No, I haven't seen any of his adaptations. I don't know anything else he's actually written, believe it or not. I should want to know more. But this was just, it was so up my alley. I really wanted to emulate it when I was working on my TV writing, because it's quiet, it's subtle. The pacing is really slow, but that's everything is all about the extreme boringness of the subject. Just the way that he weaves all of it together. His themes are literally wall to wall. They're not just, rhinestones on a carbon copy of something else. It's art. I absolutely love it. I could go on and on. Anyway, my point is that one of the features of this show is he and his friend, the 2 main characters, well, the main character and his friend, they're metal detectorists, and they are members of a society of metal detectorists in Essex, I think. And they have these meetings where it's just so evident that it's incredibly, to anyone else, like watching paint dry. And but you can see these people having incredible enthusiasm about it, and all these varied topics that if you get into something, you'll find out that exists. And there's only 5 people in the entire society, and it's that kind of a vibe that I feel going on with these past is the way forward people. that they would have these meetings where they're talking in extreme detail and surmising enthusiastically about what ancient humans were like, but there's only like 5 or 6 of them in all of Miminey City. And they put flyers up all over the place, and everyone just rolls their eyes at them. And to me, this is one of the aesthetics of British culture that I find really delightful, that I think is particularly British, and the self-deprecation that exists around that as well. It's considered a very, now correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, but it's considered a very British thing to have a unpopular hobby, to have a boring hobby, and to be a lot of it has to do with collecting, but it's this delightful little cultural thing that I just think is brilliant, and I think this would be a great opportunity to bring some of that humor and real worldness to the game. So let's see, let's do some something to remind me of detect tourists. I think that will remind me of what I need to know when I go here in the future. But there's probably a hidden settlement. Remember, we are in Drakemar. Oh, I'll get the names down eventually. We are in Drakemar, which is this fellow here. This region here in Drakemar is called that because it's these narrow, deep valleys, 3 of them parallel to each other, that look a bit like a giant world-sized dragon clawed away the ground in the foothills below the Greece. So it would be easy for them to remain hidden in Drakemar. You do small hidden settlement in Drakemar. Not too far from New Defiance. They probably raid New Defiance. Should we just call them digs? Field research. Outposts for artifacts. Yeah. Okay. What do you think? Anything you want to add to that, Rick? I actually like both of these ideas. I'm not opposed to having come up with 2 instead of just the one I aim to come up with, so. Anti-magic. Become the new elves. Expand on that. What does that mean, new elves? Like the new people in charge? I see. Okay. See the Exodus as a power vacuum that needs filling? Is that sort of accurate to what you're thinking? Is that their motivation? Is it to be in power? Or is it to maybe more to control? Okay. Yeah. But is that how they would maintain power? I think, because where I think that the hitch is in that is, as a minority, they would need to find ways to achieve. They're looking for ways to achieve that power, right? The society is largely lawless, and the power that existed in the elven society was structural. It was infrastructure. It was laws. And those are the very things that are gone. So if they learn from the elves, it's almost like they're missing tools to get what they want. How I think we need to, in order for them to exist, we need to have some kind of light at the end of the tunnel for them. Maybe it's like a secret society. Yeah, a group of people who secretly think that they could leverage their society's lawlessness into putting themselves on top. Then the hitch becomes, if they're meeting with other people who all feel the same way, they have to have an ideal. They have to have something that unifies them. Trying to gain access to more powerful elven magics. Well, I think that's definitely already an activity of the Farmers Guild. Yeah, I believe quite firmly that there is a quiet contingent of the Farmers Guild that is, with authorization of the Farmers Guild, actively trying to find evidence of these elven practices. So that's definitely a thing that already exists. There's also, in regards to that, there would be a group that, some people that, that's what I'm looking for, that believe that magic should be freely available, just like any other knowledge. If we remember that one of the pillars of post-Exodus human culture is the free sharing of knowledge. Let's give these. Smell this one. There we go. So we can see this a little bit better. Okay. So a conspiracy needs a unifying ideal. To maintain hope, power grabbers need to see a clear path, not a clear path, but a path to their goals. Conspiracy. Secret society is sort of the answer to that. What would still trying to think, what could possibly be the unifying ideal that would support a conspiracy or a secret society? Because we've already done the truists concept. The idea that humans need people in charge. Or maybe it's just a variety, like a shade of what the truists believe. That humans need hierarchy. Could be an inner truist faction. Yeah. Not necessarily subjugation. Some relation to the truists. Yeah, that's potential. That's a possibility. Okay, what else have we got here? So let's look at these guys. Magic should be freely available just like any other knowledge. So these people exist in defiance of the Farmers Guild. And as such, unlikely to live in no, not necessarily. They could live in Scholar's Reach, but they were unlikely to live in Hedgehog. We're talking about people who are roaming around with cantrip level knowledge. causing accidents. They probably... They're probably surrounding a black market for magical knowledge and artifacts. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably really ridiculous probably really mundane in comparison to the kind of magical black market you'd find in like a high fantasy setting. But yeah, it makes sense that it would exist. Yeah. Okay, I think we can leave this section a bit. We've got quite a lot here that I may be picking and choosing from. Some of it may be a little bit too slightly too microscopic for the player's guide, but I'll decide that when I go through and write everything down. And I really need to get down to some of the writing because I haven't done it since we started working on East Templin and further. That's at least 3 or 4 pages for the World Anvil. What we need to do is we need to go back and we need to take a look at this introduction again. So we need to point out this is the important places section. The players begin in High River. The campaign is set in the Miminey City and the Eight Lorddoms region. Miminey City attempted to organize as a kingdom but failed after the Exodus. After the failure of the kingdom of Miminey City. Society reformed under the Triad. And sent the first flight out into the nearby lands. There we go. With purposes related to reconstructing human civilization. I don't think this needs to go in the intro. So, anything about climate, cultural, no scent. Okay, so here we would say MC and 8. Region is a temperate, deciduous climate on the southeastern coast of Wataluna. We could say what else? Something that's sort of overarching. I mean, that's what this whole introduction is. We're trying to summarize the thing and say stuff that's true to every section of this in important places. Oh, right. That's been said. That's been said. Okay. Yeah, that goes there. Right, I think human culture is new and ever changing. Something about the spirit of their cultural endeavors. Like, why? What is it about them that makes them so hopeful that they keep going from day to day? I mean, obviously, they could just be going through the motions still in a large case, but I think given that they've done the whole market talks thing, that implies a degree of hope, positivity about their own culture, even enthusiasm. So yeah, I don't think we're looking for going through the motions here. There may be some people who just are. That's just going to exist. There's probably a very large contingent of those people in Miminey City. Oh, that was something that I think we said about the Truists, is that their reservation is actually in, yeah, it's in Miminey City itself. Okay, no, it's in there. What else do we want to say that's a bit overarching? That touches on location. Perhaps these two things are not really necessary. Just talking about places. However, we may want to reserve these things. I'm going to cut those. And I'm going to put them in here. And our next section, which is life in the world. Back to important places. Yeah, because I think that's less, those aren't really geographical things. So you begin in High River, which is set in Miminey City in the Eight Lorddoms. After the Exodus, Miminey City organized a kingdom but failed. After the failure of the kingdom of Miminey City, the society reformed under the Triad and sent the first flight out. Yeah, it is now 47 SE, and the second Miminey City government has been in place nearly as long as the first. The Miminey, yeah, so we've got climate. I think that's the main elements of geography that we need. Keeping in mind that we haven't got a variety of cultures, really. There is some variety. In fact, High River is perhaps the most different out of all of these places. I'm trying to remember what all constitutes his geography, because I have a bad habit of thinking of it as only geology and cartography. But there's definitely more to geography than that. Which if you're American like me, and possibly also Canadian, you wouldn't. I think the extra things that can be considered geography, we actually study in separate subjects. We study as history. We study as social studies. Whereas like here in the UK and Ireland, they study those things all under the banner of geography. Which is why you can get a degree in geography here, which I'd never heard of before I moved here. Okay. All right, let's move on from this. We'll go into life in the world. And this is the part that I'm still trying to figure out what all takes place in all of this. Yeah, okay, I'm in the right account. I have a couple of accounts. Where are we at? I don't think I have any comments on my post. It's such a busy subreddit as well, so I'm probably quite a ways in. Oh, that's a good question. Do you have dragons? Why or why not? Oh, I like it. I'm gonna have to go talk about that one later. Fictional geography is a way of structuring. Oh, that's interesting. Geography is a way of structuring the plot. Can you expand on that? How do you see those? How do you see geography lending itself to plot? There it is. Not a lot of upvotes yet. And no comments. Maybe later. I usually post these the day before, but I only got to it about 4 hours ago, so. It's also my first one since a couple of months. So no help there yet. What I've got here is I've got a section on education, a section specifically on the first flight, currency, calendar, traveling, language. Those were all suggestions from the guide to the campaign Bible. So if we go here, life in the world. Provide a brief sketch of basic information about living in your world. Consider the everyday details. What is used for currency? What are the days of the week and months of the year? Is it easy to travel or hard? What languages are spoken? Be sure not to alienate your players by making anything too unfamiliar or weird. A non-decimal currency or a 3-day week may sound cool, but they may just cause unnecessary headaches. While that last bit sounds a little bit trite, it is something that I'm fully aware is a risk, a constant risk in Kinde. that I may being a bit too unfamiliar. So it's something I like to keep in mind, but it's certainly not ever going to be a rule. Yes, I'm not sure I agree with it either. However, I will say that if you disregard it, there will definitely 100% be players you run across who will ruin the experience for yourself and for the other players who are interested in immersing themselves in something that's unfamiliar, who are interested in being outside of their safety bubbles, because these people are incapable of leaving those safety bubbles. That they're incapable of, for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's necessarily a negative thing. It's just not where their brains are. They only see fantasy in their own personal mental library, their own personal headcanon of what fantasy is. I have run into players like that before, that no matter how many times you jab them with, this is not what you expect, this is something different, you tell them, don't go into this expecting anything. Dungeons and Dragons land, that's all that they see. Some of them, that's all that they will ever see fantasy as being, and they will see everything through that lens. No matter how many times you tell them, that's not what this world is. So even if I don't agree that a new setting should be familiar, by being wholly unfamiliar, you will alienate people, and you won't be able to tell that you've alienated people until after they start kicking around on your world and breaking things and people. So that's why I think it's something to be aware of, but to take with a grain of salt. Anyway, so we've got this list of suggestions here. I've added them in. It doesn't feel like enough. I know that we're dealing with a ttrpg setting here, so it needs to be kind of anthropology light. This isn't world building as a hobby. This isn't even world building for a novel. This needs to have space for your players in it. So, and this is also the way that I like to world build for ttrpgs, is I like to have lots of space for the players. I like to have enough room for them to ask me a question about something that they want to do, and for me to be able to return with the question, I don't know, what do you want to see? And have them add to the setting. That to me is the true collaboration of tabletop role-playing games. That's what I live for when I tabletop roleplay. So we need to strike that balance between, are we world building too much? Are we not world building enough? I feel like this is still not quite enough, but it's getting somewhere. So let's talk about the aptitudes. This is something I know that exists. The aptitudes are an exam for young people / children. I think the age needs to be kind of thought about seriously. I think when we're talking about medieval, the goal for the aptitudes really is to find a profession. And in most cases, that means that you need to have an apprenticeship. And one thing I do know about the aptitudes is a profession, a certificate potentially results in a certificate, what would you call it? Not qualifying, call it a certificate of professional aptitude for allowance. No, I think that's the technical phrase that masters for acceptance into an apprenticeship. And there we go. I think that's that is the tangible result of an aptitude exam. That you say, okay, you take your aptitudes, they say, this is what you have an aptitude for, and then you say, okay, I want to be an apprentice in shipwrighting, and it was something that they said you had an aptitude for, so the people, the team, the group, the organization, that's something to think about, that administers the exam will then write you a certificate which you take to a master in order to have an apprenticeship. That explains what a person is, or that J key, potentially good at. Historically, the elves are the first ones to institute aptitudes. I'll just write that. Elves were the first to institute aptitudes for efficient allocation of human labor. That's a very weird way to spell that. And I keep whacking my mic. After the Exodus, I think this actually had to do with the market talks. In the market talks, it was agreed to continue with the tests. What did I say in the post? It was about how free access to knowledge and learning and training meant that they needed the aptitudes because folks were still very ignorant of what was possible. Because of cultural ignorance, resulting from the participation in a society where knowledge is free and access to learning and training is available to all. The aptitudes are a guide. That makes sense. Yeah, okay. So we need to think about age. Back to what you were saying, Rick, about geography as a way of ordering the locations characters encounter. That theming groups of locations, that I think has made a lot of sense to me. When I think of scenes in a role-playing game, for whatever reason, they're largely location-based. Unless we're talking about somewhere that you just go back to over and over again, so like a town, that sort of thing, then they're often people-based for me. I'd have to look back in sort of my campaign notes, but I don't think it's in here. It says just Elohara. And it doesn't have Retrieve the Urn. Let's open up Retrieve the Urn. I think it's in here. I can't. Where are you? Where are you? Adventures. It's Elahara. There we go. Replacing the urn. So, well, this is actually a lot of plot-driven stuff. Now, if we go back into Elahara, that is very location-based because a lot of it has to do with an investigation and people going from place to place. Now, the locations are kind of people. Well, no, actually, this is more people-oriented, but these people all have a place. And so the place is intrinsic. And actually, the large reason that I had an investigation in this village is because I wanted people to get familiar with all of the different locations in High River. So this investigation forces them to wander around town, checking out all of the various important places. And in fact, in the, where is it? There it is. And the third adventure, Justice in Penhaven, just in High River now, Justice in High River, does a similar thing where now they have to get to know the social structure of High River. And in that, they go to several more important places in High River, including just some like visual sites, the places that give more flavor than have a technical importance. Yep. Yeah, I've mostly done it in a place that you would go back to over and over again. The rest of the world, though, I see as being quite location-based. High River, a microcosm of the wider setting? No, but Nillenhold would be. High River is the comfortable space. So you know how we were talking about how people need familiarity, or you're going to have outliers who can't handle your game. High River is a comfortable space that is more like what we know of as fantasy, so that you can ease into the strangeness of the rest of the world. So it's got multiple races. It's basically it's a crossroads village. So there's lots of travel in and out of it. It's almost like the Keep on the Borderlands, in that it's a hub and everything around it is almost, despite the smallness of High River, and that there are very much towns that are bigger than High River outside of it. It's very much like outside of High River is a wilderness of kinds. But yeah, it's also one example of how things are done differently. So if I can, in designing the adventures, this was something that I was after, was if I can stress that this is one way of doing things, and you could go 20 miles and you'll find a very another different way of doing things. Yeah. Yeah, I think that sort of sums that up. I think if I were to use one term to describe how I organize a campaign or a plot, I think it would just be scenes. Not even encounters. Encounters can be too big of a term, especially when you're talking about things like an investigation. Because every place that you go, every person that you talk to in an investigation is all part of one large encounter, which is this investigation. But you need to write like almost mini encounters within that, in talking to each individual person or investigating each individual space. To me, those are all scenes. And one key aspect of planning an adventure or campaign is thinking about how long is this going to take? How much of this can I fit into a session? At least in the way that I design an adventure, I'm thinking very much in terms of cinematic pacing. So I will want to make sure that that there is like an available mini arc that fits into a single campaign. And these 3 adventures that I've more or less written for Kinde already are very episodic. They're single session adventures with the right group. Anyway, I haven't quite nailed down that one yet. With my group of new players, Elohara the Dam took 5-6 hours, and we were aiming for 4. And I think actually thinking more in terms of it being based on scenes would help keep that time down rather than encounters. But I feel like there's something to what you're saying, Rick, and I keep wanting to think of ways to make that work, to make that true. So I wouldn't set that aside. That's a great idea. Somewhere in there it works. Oh yeah, Sergeant Agata is fabulous. I love her. But that's something that's inherent in that style of campaign, Black Griffin, which is a mercenary campaign. You're given jobs to do. So you have to go somewhere central for that. But I think that type of setup has so much great potential for role play, for flavor, for setting. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out through further research that strong world building tends to go hand in hand with hub locations, whether you're doing a mercenary campaign or more of an open world campaign. That if you want to really push your world building, chances are there's going to be one location that they go back to over and over again. Somewhere safe. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Agata, is she safe? That's the I think that's a bit of an ironic statement. Yes and no, Rick. No, but I think Agata is one of those characters that she has your back. You just might not be 100% comfortable with what that feels like. Let's see what else. So this is something that occurred to me as I was outlining this section in preparation for today, that I knew that it was part of the culture to emphasize access to learning and training. That there was some kind of gathering of people of all ages on a regular basis in all of the towns where people traded knowledge. I realized while I was outlining this that I needed a term for this. I needed to give it some kind of structure. And obviously the first term that came to my mind was the word school. It seems too mundane. I want something more flavorful than school. Less mundane. Let's go to our handy dandy thesaurus. Let's close this. Place of learning. Not the verb. Why would I want the verb? Here we go. Academy, department, faculty, hall, institution. Now I thought it could definitely be sort of like a village hall function. I thought maybe giving it the word university would be a bit too bowing to the oppressive culture. I think too aggrandizing. College. Now, college sounds to a British person, a British and Irish person, the word college sounds more ordinary than it does to an American, a North American. To North Americans, the term college is entirely post-compulsory higher education. Invisible. Why is it invisible, Rick? Schoolhouse discipline. Let's see. Brought up circle. Well, I camp, clan, class, clique. Oh, I said that in a very British pronunciation. Club, companions, company, comrades, coterie, crew, cronies, crowd, crush. Interesting. That sounds very much like a last post organization. Fraternity, gang, and group. Posse, ring, school, set, society, sorority, class. What's as in category, not as in collection. Coaches. Cult. The cult of learning. Educate. Discipline, enlighten. Lightning Hall? Ooh, yeah. Something hall. Some verb. Something about like raising people up. Train, tutor. Opening people's minds. Familiarize. Forming. Tutelage. The tutelage hall. That's a bit erudite. Habituate, herd, indoctrinate. It's gotta feel natural. The whole motivation behind it is that this is just the way things ought to be. It frees people. Knowledge keeps them from ever being subjugated in the same way ever again. Knowledge was something that elves explicitly took away from them in order to keep them down. Possibly it's a concept that started during the occupation in Rebel Hall. That one of the main activities of Rebel Hall was exchange of knowledge. Exchange. We'll just call it the exchange. Yep, that's what it is. It's the exchange. Okay. The exchange is a location in every city where people meet to exchange knowledge and training. The learning is free. It's part of the First Flight's contract to offer expertise. Oh, not just the first flight as a whole, but the first flight's experts contract to offer their knowledge at an exchange. So if you were some kind of master in your field, and you signed up for the first flight, you had a special contract with the first flight that said that you would, in some generic terms, regularly offer up your knowledge to the public at an exchange at your town's exchange. Yeah, okay. I would say there's likely not a specific type of building built for this, but it takes place in a community space / longhouse. Like a... Do I want to say school or... See, this is a thing that is a bit... Again, I don't know what it is today about talking about the differences between the British and Irish Isles and North America, but in North America, this concept of affordable access to education is much more prevalent than it is here in Britain, which sounds kind of ironic given how expensive university is in the States, and how important it is in these parts to have affordable access to university education, and in some cases free education, and in Europe in general free education. But that's a formal kind of education that has a lot of oversight and a very strict hierarchy, and as far as part of this system of qualifications that may open up professions and income to the individuals who achieve them. So it has its own economy. It's a very strict economy. Whereas when I'm talking about freedom of access to education, I'm talking about education that doesn't lead anywhere, education for the sake of learning. So one thing you get in the US that I don't see happening very easily or here, or not easily, but consistently, I think is the big part, is places where as an ordinary person you can go and you can take an art class or a history class. In the UK, you have to rely on a specialist center offering public classes and something like that. And now there's a lot of places you can find stuff like this, not too different to what I was used to in the States. You can go to, say, I live in Weston-super-Mare, and at Weston College, they have a lot of classes that you can go and take really affordably for all sorts of ages, and you're not stuck with a bunch of obnoxious 18 and 19-year-olds on a 3-year course. In Bristol, there's the Bristol Folk House, which has lots of arts and creative classes. And I suppose it's really common that they tend to be some kind of creative hobby, as opposed to like history classes. But at least in the States, at a community college, you can pay different rates if you're not trying to get college credit for them. College credit means that it will lead to a qualification of some kind. So as long as you state from the beginning, I'm not trying to get a qualification for this, you can get access to these classes for much cheaper. And then you have access to the full gambit of that community college's courses. So while it might be more common that people want to take art classes, you have access to all of the history classes and everything else. And if you've watched the TV show Community, you can see how it is a cliche trope that people of a certain age will often take the gambit of classes available at a community college because they love to learn, because it gets them out in the world and meeting people. And that's one of the things I love about a community college is that they're so diverse in age, in ethnicity, in all sorts of things. They are really marvelous places. The teaching is not necessarily any good, but it's the environment and the promise that of lack of barriers, lack of cultural barriers to education. There are lots of practical barriers, like, money, and that schools access to actual good teachers and all sorts of those sorts of things. But also another show I think you should watch, Community. Watch it. It's remarkably good. That Dan Harmon fellow is something special, which, again, if you've seen Rick and Morty, you know that too. So, which I think somehow Rick and Morty is more popular than Community ever was, at least more mainstream, which is a shame because, it's brilliant. So this, to me, I think if I were to have a real world inspiration for this, it would be that community college feeling. So there are people who, I don't know where I was going that sentence now, but people who attend are varied in age and background. Some come to every lesson they can, while others pick and choose according to the schedule. Some others only come when the subject is relevant to their own profession. Lots of reasons to go, no obligation to go. It's just a cultural thing that you do. Learning is a passion in this world for most people. Again, when I say stuff like that, it's hugely generalized. You have to sort of understand that. We've got all of those dissenter groups that I made today that we worked on today, that some of which are very much not going to be excited about the concept of education for everyone. Right. Okay. I think that's where we need to stop today. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Rick, for being a part of this. And coming up with some really great thoughts. I didn't think we'd be so productive on the dissenter groups section at all, so that was really great. And I look forward to moving on to this. And if you have any thoughts specifically on... Oh, and I've gone away from it already. Specifically on what should be included in this section on daily life, let me know. I will put this link here into chat. Follow that. I will, I think I need to start making sure that the links are available in the descriptions of my YouTube videos. Speaking of which, in case you didn't know, I have a YouTube channel. All of these videos end up, I record them separately from what goes on Twitch, and then I archive them on YouTube. So you can see them, not all of them here. I still need to get my behind together on that episode 2 and 3 that are missing from here. Because of those sound delay issues I was having at the beginning. Real tedious work. That literally would probably take a couple of days each video. But I will get to that, especially now that I've got the new PC. I won't be crashing and stuff, so that needs to go on my list of to-do stuff. So anyway, this is where I put the videos after I've turned them into something watchable. And you should subscribe so that eventually YouTube will recognize that I exist and that I am worthwhile, that I am worthy of the algorithm or whatever. I still don't know what any of that stuff means. Thank you, Rick. And maybe someday make money from it. I don't know. I've been doing a little bit of research on how one monetizes this sort of content creation. And supposedly there is far more money to be made on YouTube than there is on Twitch. So I am staying reserved on my attitude toward Twitch affiliation. But we will see how that turns out. Yes, that is available. Link is in the chat. Thank you, Rick. And if you have any other tips for what I'm doing, but better, then you can send me a tweet or DM me. I need to have this saved somewhere so I don't have to type it out every time. Send me a tweet. I'm on Twitter. Follow me there too. Follow me all the places. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Those are the places. No more than that. I can't wrap my head around Instagram, or rather, it's not that I don't get Instagram. It's that my brain doesn't work like that. So I never have consistent content for Instagram. So, and plus my stuff doesn't work for that like that either. Anyway, have a good night, and thank you for watching. Bye. Oh, I forgot I have to do it off the side.